So Sunday, there's going to be a professional video guy here, and the schedule is going to be, we're going to do the Haggadah. I'm doing this video for Ohr Somayach that they put out for people. It's going to be on the Haggadah. Now, we're going to have Haggadahs here. I'm going to speak. There will be Haggadahs here, and the schedule is going to be. We start at regular 12:15 and go to 1 o'clock. And anybody who wants to go leave at 1 o'clock. I'm going to be going on with this guy, with this professional video guy. So there won't be any talking or questions on Sunday because I'm doing this for public consumption. It's not for Torah anytime. It's for Ohr Somayach's thing is doing this video. So we're trying to find out. I was going to do it in a different room, but the scheduling got all. So we're going to be doing that on Sunday at 12:15. But again, it's going to be. I'm not going to be talking to you as much as to the camera. But you could I will be talking to you, but it's really aimed at the camera, so you'll be free to listen to it and you'll pick up stuff on the Haggadah, if what do you call it? If I could just ask somebody to volunteer, Ezra, and just remind Rabbi Geffen that we have to have Haggadahs here at 12:15 on Sunday, not to first start looking for them. So I'd like you to Shmuel, if you could ask him, Natanel, if you could remind him. Rachamim, if you could remind him. 4 people should be sufficient, right? Just keep reminding Rabbi Geffen, and if anybody else wants to volunteer to do it, you could do it also, and then hopefully maybe we'll have the Haggadahs here on time. Yes?
Are we able to ask questions now?
No, not on Sunday. Sunday's going to be, that's why I want you to know in advance, Sunday's going to be straight Haggadah with no, what do you call it, yeah.
I'm not sure, are there going to be enough Haggadahs? I don't think we have enough.
That's, they'll figure it out. They'll have to work it out. Okay. All right, Parshas Vayakhel. Vayakhel, so he started yesterday. Vayakhel Moshe es b'nei Yisrael v'yomer lehem ela advarim shetziva Hashem la'asos osam. Now if you take a look at Rashi, the very first Rashi says, L'mocharas Yom HaKippurim. This is after Yom Kippur. Sheyorad Moshe k'yorad bin hahar. It's after Yom Kippur where Moshe came down and he had gone up in order to get an atonement for the Jewish people, and now he comes down the day after Yom Kippur to the Jewish people. And he gathers them together, and then he gives them the order about Shabbos. Now the first thing that we said yesterday, we're talking about the importance of Shabbos, is that the Torah is emphasizing that as important as making the Mishkan is, it doesn't override Shabbos. I mean, Shabbos has to be observed, even though they're now going to give the instructions, they're going into the building of the Mishkan, now the actual implementation of what we've seen before. But Shabbos, it does not override Shabbos. It does not override Shabbos. Shabbos still is the priority. And if you can't do Malacha on Shabbos, then you cannot build the Mishkan on Shabbos, as important as it is. And people have to know the importance, as we started speaking about yesterday, the importance of Shabbos, that a Orthodox Jew, the way you refer to as somebody Orthodox, is he frum? The way we refer to him is he Shomer Shabbos. Right? That is the line. You could keep the entire Torah, do everything, but if a person is not a conscientious Shabbos observer, even conscientious observers mess up sometimes. You flick a light switch, you mess up, you do something by accident, whatever it is. Even once in a while, you do something even intentionally, whatever it is. But if a guy is a flagrant Shabbos desecrator, he crosses a line. And from the letter of Halacha, you cannot drink the wine that he touches, just like a non-Jew touches the wine unless the wine's been cooked in advance. He has crossed that line. You can't count him in a minyan. L'chatchila, you don't count him in a minyan. If you have no choice, sometimes people do, but there are plenty of people who won't use him in a minyan. He's got a different status in Halacha for Shabbos. A guy who keeps everything in the Torah but doesn't keep kosher, he's still considered an Orthodox Jew, just got a Yetzer Hara. Right? It's very rare, by the way. There are plenty of people who keep kosher, don't keep Shabbos. There are very few people who keep Shabbos who don't keep kosher. Right? It doesn't. You can't. Nobody's described. Oh, he's a shomer kashrus, right? Oh, he's a shomer shatnez, right? Is he shomer Shabbos or he's not shomer Shabbos? That's the definition of a Jew. Is he shomer Shabbos? And it's got a lot of different ramifications in Halacha. So it has to do with trustworthiness. If you could eat in a person's house. Can you eat in a person's house without knowing exactly what it is? Shomer Shabbos, you can eat in his house. For the most part, you can eat in his house. Somebody's not Shomer Shabbos, has zero reliability, according to Halacha. So Shabbos is a line. People have to get used to the idea of Shabbos being this line. Now, I want to take you for a bit of a ride. It's a tapestry, and like I always say, if you hold all the questions, either you hear it or you don't hear it. Okay, it's not something you can't ask kashas on this. It's something that one of the commentaries mentions over here, and we're going to go for a bit of a ride. Okay, so focus on it. If you, I told you, it's like a painting. You can't explain a painting to me. You can't explain. Somebody who doesn't appreciate art, you can't explain what he's supposed to be playing. The same thing with music. Some people have an ear for music. What's it called? Classical music or whatever it is, or a symphony orchestra. You can't explain to somebody what I'm supposed to hear. Either you hear it or you don't hear it. Either you got it. So sometimes there's an idea here which is it's what we call a tapestry. Either you see it or either you see it and you're sensitive to it, or if not, otherwise you'll hear the concepts at least. Okay. Yeah. You want a question before we start? Did you have a question before we start?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very quickly.
If I go to family and they cook everything before Shabbat, but I saw like after Shabbat started, like the fish was still inside the oven, and then they took it out. It was still cooking during Shabbat.
Then don't eat the fish. Don't eat the fish. If it's people who are, unless it's salmon, because just kidding. Then you don't eat it. If something was desperate, then you don't eat it. But in general, if these people who are conscientious, they just made a mistake, as opposed to people who are just flagrantly to completely neglectful of the laws of Shabbos. But again, if you have any questions, you ask a halachic authority. Ask Rabbi Bradowitz. What I don't want to go into all the details now. Okay. Now, so the Torah, it says that Moshe came down, and he comes down after Yom right on the day after Yom Kippur. Okay. Now, three things happen here. Number one, Rashi emphasizes that Moshe comes down after Yom Kippur. Number two, you have this Vayakhel, gathering the people together. Moshe gathers all the people together, the first word in the Parsha. And the third thing that takes place is this building of the Mishkan. They're going to now go and they're going to start building the Mishkan. Earlier we were given the command, now they're going to go into the implementation. So what is the connection? What is the connection between Yom Kippur, which Rashi points out, that's when Moshe came down. He gathers the people together after Yom Kippur with instructions for the Mishkan. So what's going on? What is the connection between the three? Okay, so let's go for a ride. Ready? Here we go. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that you've all heard and you're all aware, that says that there are three averas that take a man out of the world. Hakina, ve'ataiva, ve'akavod. It's Perek Dal, Mishnah Yud Zayin in Pirkei Avos. Rabbi Elazar Akapar Omer, Hakina, ve'ataiva, ve'akavod, motzina zada mina olam. Jealousy, the pursuit of desires, and the pursuit of honor take a person out of the world. Okay? That literally could terminate a person's life. If a person's jealous, he eats his kishkis out because he's jealous. That could cut his life short. He could get ulcers. Various physical desires, right, could be very unhealthy for a person. It could terminate his life. And the pursuit of honor. A person may overwork himself, or a person may try to become president and then get shot at, or anything like that where you are in a situation that could literally terminate a person's life. Hakina v'atayva could cut a person's life short. That's the first thing. And you see people who work themselves to the bone only to compete with other people. That's all because of either jealousy or because of their pursuit of prestige and honor, and so on and so forth. It's certainly people who either engage in various unhealthy practices, which lead to all sorts of diseases, or they eat the wrong foods, or they smoke the wrong substances, or inject the wrong substances, or drink the wrong substances. All of these various things could cut a person's life short. That's the plain meaning. Meaning number two is that the kina v'atayva kod motzina sada mina olam. These three desires take a person. They remove a person from the world of reality. That means when a person is caught up in a fit of desire, the best example, the classic example would be on Yom Kippur, towards the end of the day, when you're envisioning how many slices of pizza you're going to put together and wedge into your mouth at one time, right, towards the end of Yom Kippur, and you're thinking about how delicious it's going to be, and it's just going to be the absolute ultimate pleasure in this world. And then when you when you get there, you find out, well, it was good. It wasn't, I've had better. Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't what cracked up to be in my imagination. The same thing when it comes to jealousy. You're jealous because somebody else is driving a fancy sports car, so you buy one and you find out that it's a disappointment. Or the pursuit of honor that a person thinks when he gets his certain position, that will be the ultimate in honor, except then he gets to that position and he finds the honor is not there. One of the reasons that there is a high suicide rate among actors and actresses and that sort of thing is because they thought that they're going to be famous and have this prestige, and then they find out that it's an illusion. The whole thing is artificial, and therefore they kill themselves, or each other. So the kina, taiva, and kavod take a person out of the world of reality. That's what the Mishnah means. Now, what underlying every inappropriate activity in life, any avera that a person does, any sin that a person does, one or more of these factors will be there. Every avera that a person does will either be the underlying motivation or the underlying push for the avera is going to be either jealousy, the pursuit of desire, or the pursuit of honor. So for example, let's say you speak Lashon Hara. You may be speaking Lashon Hara about somebody because you're jealous of them. You may be speaking Lashon Hara because you feel it'll promote you, the pursuit of honor, that if I can put him down, by putting him down, I push myself up. If a person eats non-kosher food or gets involved in a non-kosher relationship, that's obviously the pursuit of desire. So everything that you can think of, anything you can think of that's sinful is going to have one of these three factors, sometimes more. Sometimes you can have all three at once. But if you think about it, these are the factors that are going to be the catalysts of just about any sinful activity a person gets involved. What are you laughing at?
Kabbalist?
I didn't say Kabbalists. I said catalysts. The catalyst. No, not the catalyst. They said a catalyst, except if he's a fake Kabbalist who takes money. So then you have all three of them involved, right? But there are plenty of legitimate Kabbalists. Right? If you have a fake Kabbalist, so he's taking money and he's doing averas and so on and so forth. So then again, you have all three factors. But we're not talking about. We're talking about we're talking about where you're. What do you call it? You're talking about we're a catalyst of the sin. Okay, now. The Jewish people got to the golden calf. There were three averas at the golden calf. There were three averas. If you take jealousy, which is the first one, and raise it to the highest level, what do you get? What's jealousy at the ultimate level? Jealousy is inconsideration for another person, right? It's me versus you. Me versus you at the highest level is obviously murder. And the first murder in history is who? Cain. That was interesting. The name Cain. The name Cain comes with the same root as the word kina, which is jealousy, which is exactly what was true, what was motivating him. Cain was jealous of Hevel. Cain also comes with the word kinyan, acquisition. One of the reasons that we are, whether you picked it up, dalet out, 3 tefachim or not, right? It represents acquisition. Because when you're jealous of somebody, you're jealous often of their acquisitions. So kina, kayin, kinyan, it's all the same thing. It's all the same root. Isn't that interesting? So at the Egel, what happened? Hur tried to stop them at the Egel. And Aaron saw that Hur tried to stop. What happened to Hur? He was killed. So you have kina, jealousy, at the highest degree at the Egel. Number one. Number two, you have taiva. What is taiva at the highest level? Taiva at the highest level is immorality. It's a death penalty. What did you have at the Egel? You had taiva at the highest level, which was what? It says openly, they got involved in immorality, right? They got involved in immorality. And idol, what's the kavod at the highest level of kavod? Kavod is idol worship. Why? Because idol worship, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to be submitting to God. A person says, I don't want to submit to God. I don't want to be told what to do. That's coming from where? That's coming from kavod. So kavod at the highest level is going to be manifest in idol worship. You're telling me to worship this way. I'll worship the way I want to worship. So you see that at the golden calf, there were three cardinal sins involved. Idol worship, immorality, and murder were all there at the golden calf, which are kina, taiva, and kavod at the highest level. Kina, taiva, and kavod at the highest degree. Okay? Now, what do the Jewish people need as a result? They need a rectification. They need what we call a tikkun. You need a tikkun. And by the way, you can't just read You can't just read a couple of paragraphs of Tehillim and okay, you got your tikkun for the day, right? It doesn't work that way. Tikkun means that you got to say, it could help, and it certainly was always good to say Tehillim, but you can't, you don't get automatic tikkun in this world. You know, tikkun comes from working. There's no microwave religion. So the way you go, okay, I'm good now I can go back and do some more of errors. No, it doesn't work that way, right? I got my tikkun for Wednesday, now Thursday I can go sin and I'll get my tikkun tomorrow night. It doesn't work that way. So they need a tikkun. They need some sort of atonement for having gotten involved in these three sins. Well, let's take a look at how the atonement works. Number one, Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the first thing? What would be the opposite of kina? Remember, there are three reasons. The same Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says the world was created for three things, which are Torah, Avoda, and Gemilus Chasadim. Well, guess what, gentlemen? Torah, Avoda, and Gemilus Chasadim are the parallels of Kina, Taiva, and Kavod. Right? Because the parallel of Kina, the opposite of Kina means resentment of other people. So what's the opposite of Kina? Is Chesed. Taiva is desire. What's the opposite of desire? Is Torah. Because the only way we can get ourselves under control is by studying Torah. And the opposite of Kavod is Avoda. Kavod means I'll do it my way. Avoda means submission to God through prayer and through sacrifices. So Kina, Taiva, and Kavod, it's not in the same order, Torah, Avoda, and Gemilus Chasadim, but they happen to be the three polar opposites of Kina, Taiva, and Kavod. There are no accidents here. Now, what the Jewish people, if you take Kina, what's the opposite of Kina? The opposite of Kina is Chesed. That means Kina means resentment towards other people. The polar opposite means concern for other people, what we would call unity. Unity means we're all together. So what's the first thing? Vayakhel. Moshe gathers the people together. That's the first word in the Parsha. That's the rectification for Kina at the Egel. The second flaw at the Egel was Taiva. The second flaw was desire. Right? They got involved in immorality. Well, what's the one day out of the year that all desire is set aside? Yom Kippur. So Moshe is this taking place the day after Yom Kippur. Taking place when Moshe comes down, connected to Yom Kippur. That's the rectification for that. And the third one is kavod, right? The third one is idol worship. Well, what's the rectification for idol worship? The ultimate devotion to God. Where's the ultimate devotion to God? Building a mishkan so that they could then serve God. So the connection between Vayakhel, coming after on Yom Kippur, it's Vayakhel, it's Yom Kippur, and it's the Mishkan all together is a rectification for the Kina, Taiva, and Kavod, which were murder, idol worship, and immorality that took place at the Egel. Okay? Then Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Jewish people, take a look at Pasuk Gimel. One of the commentaries says, Lo Sivaru, Pasuk Gimel, fourth line from the top. Lo Sivaru, can we open some windows or doors or something, gentlemen? What?
I'll open the window.
Shkayach. So the Torah says, Lo Sivaru Eish B'chomo Shosechem B'yom HaShabbos. Do not burn a fire in your house on Shabbos. We spoke about this yesterday about eating cholent. The commentaries say that this is a warning. It's obviously not the plain meaning, but Eish often means the fire of anger. The fire of anger and stress. In many homes, the most vulnerable time of the week is Erev Shabbos. Right? Erev Shabbos, a frum woman takes on a commitment, and it doesn't matter what you say to her, it doesn't matter how much you tell her, don't worry, and we'll make it, we'll get to Shabbos. She's taking on a responsibility for the entire family for a Shabbos, and she feels that responsibility. Unlike men, who take on a responsibility, but if somebody happens to walk by with a bag of golf clubs, he would probably just abandon the responsibility and go out to the golf course. Because men are ready to play at all times. Women take responsibility seriously, right? And a wife takes on the responsibility. You stop and think about it. A frum woman, I once made a calculation that my wife has made over 2,000 Shabboses for the family, right? And you stop and think about that, and then you have a, what do you call it? You have sometimes you get Shabbos and Yontif back to back, right? That's a lot of cooking and meals for the women. And then you got a Shabbos and a Yontif. You could get into you guys who got to keep what do you call it, 2 days Yontif, because you're not as Jewish as me, right? So you got to keep two. If you were on my level, you only have to keep one, right? But you got to keep this. You got one of those 3-day jobs, right? So in America, the women are prepared for this because every from home has at least one extra freezer in the basement, and some people have 3. And so they cook and they freeze and they put it in it. In Israel, when that happens, it happens rarely in Israel. Once in a while, we'll get a Rosh Hashanah with a Shabbos. Once every few years, I don't remember the last time it happened. And the women panic. They're not equipped for this. It's like snow in Yerushalayim, right? You get an inch and a half of snow in Yerushalayim, it shuts down the city. There are no snow plows here. They don't have that sort. They have that once in a while, a couple of what do you call it? A couple of Hatzalah. Put away all technology, please. Once in a while, they have some of these ambulances or something with snowplow. Some of the emergency vehicles. Well, it shuts down. So you get a from woman, and now I guess you got to cook for 3 days. And what do you do? It's what do you call it? It's very. So you have to realize there's a lot of cooking going on. So Erev Shabbos could get very tense. By the way, people complain about those 3-day yontifs like it's the worst thing in the world. Oh boy, the 3 days. You talk to people, it's like being sentenced to prison. 3 days, I don't understand. Never understood that. You get to eat and sleep for 3 days, which are basically your goals in life, right? And all of a sudden now you feel like, oh no, now we got another meal. Right? People say, you got to go to another meal. I don't know. I never heard you complaining about it during the week. I never heard you guys on a Saturday night after a whole Shabbos. Guys, what's the first thing you do after Shabbos? After eating a whole Shabbos, what do you do? Go out for some pizza. Right? There you're never complaining. All of a sudden, because you have to do it, all of a sudden that takes the fun out. Right? All of a sudden we can't handle it. What's a shlach? You eat, you got to shul a little bit, you sleep a lot, and eat some more, and learn a little bit, and eat some more. What's a shlach? Right? And that's only the first 20 minutes. Okay, so the tension in the house on Erev Shabbos, you're racing a clock. You're racing. So the commentators say that's lo sevaru eish b'chol moshozechem yom Shabbos. Make sure that you keep the fire of unpleasantness and anger out of the house on Shabbos. Shabbos is usually everybody's calmed down by Shabbos, right? But Erev Shabbos, things can get tough, especially when you got a house full of little kids. Keep the anger out of the house. Okay. If take a look at Perek Lamed Hey Pasuk Yud. So it says, V'chol chacham leiv bachem. Moshe Rabbeinu gives the people the command about taking the truma, and then in Pasuk Yud it says, V'chol chacham leiv bachem yavo v'yasu es kol asher tziva Hashem. Anybody, how does the article translate chacham leiv?
Wise-hearted person. Wise-hearted.
Wise-hearted. Okay, for lack of a better translation. So anybody who's wise-hearted is going to come along, and they're going to do what Hashem has commanded. Now, first of all, where did these people get these skills? There's going to be a lot of very, very, you need all sorts of artisans and sculptors and people to engage in, what's it called, needlework. Where did they learn all this stuff? In Egypt, they were building pyramids. Where did they learn all this stuff? So, and who's going to be the main, what do you call it, architect of the main architect of the Mishkan? Look at page 520. Look at 520, top of 520. Vayomer Moshe el b'nei Yisrael re'u kara Hashem b'shem Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur lamata Yehuda. A man named Betzalel is going to be the chief architect of the Mishkan. How old was Betzalel at this point? The Medrash says he's 13 years old. I just had his bar mitzvah. How do you like that? Just had his bar mitzvah, and he's going to be the main architect. But you notice who his grandfather is. Look who his grandfather is. Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur, Lamata Yehuda. What happened to Chur? Chur was killed at the Egel. Chur was willing to sacrifice for the good of the cause, so he merits to have the grandson who's going to end up building the Mishkan. So there are sources that say that Betzalel in Egypt, all the people who eventually worked on the Mishkan, Betzalel happened to work for somebody who was some sort of sculptor or something that he did a sort of apprenticeship over there. that he happened to see it, and that was the work that they had making him do. Whoever his slave owner was made him do that kind of work, and he happened to be. But most commentators say it wasn't coming from there. It was just coming from pure divine inspiration. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him the inspiration to go ahead and do it. Now, there's always something about, I don't know if any of you are artists. Anybody here got artistic talent? Any of you got, what do you do, Ezra?
I just draw.
What's that? You draw. What do you do, Blake?
I do spray paint art.
Spray paint art.
But on
I spray painted, but not art. Yeah, but okay, okay. So at least I'm on my way. I'm on my way. What do you call? Or if you're a musician, any of you are musicians. So the nature of people who have some sort of expressive talent is that you often want to be creative. One of the most difficult things I found, I've worked with two types of people. It's very interesting. Everywhere you bring in an interior designer. You bring somebody into the house, and I would like something done a certain way in the house, and I get an argument. And I'm paying you to do this, and I'm getting an argument. Well, I think the couch should go over there, and I think that corner of the room could be used. But I didn't ask for your opinion. Just do what I'm telling you. No, a person who's got creative abilities, often wants to express it and doesn't think much of the people like me who don't. Right? And they can't even understand where you're coming from. And I want to tell you something, I learned a very, very bitter lesson. Right? This is embarrassing. Did you see the Ohr Somayach Gemara companion? Okay, so I think it was one of the other books that I managed to somehow write, much to the chagrin of any of my English teachers from high school. But if they would have known, they're probably turning over in their graves. But I went into a graphic design. I had to pick out a cover for the book. So I go to this graphic designer. I don't know anything about graphic design. I go to graphic. She's gonna design this book for me. She's about half my age. It was one of them. That was one of them. There was the other one, one of the impact books, I think. So I go into no, I don't need it. I don't know. I just wanted to. I don't remember. I think it was the other, the impact book. So I go in there, and she shows me what she's got as a model, what she thinks how the cover is going to look. So I said to her, I'd like you to put some green in there. Green's my favorite color, especially on $100 bills. I said to her, I'd like you to put some green in there. She said, it's not going to work. Now, I'm looking at her. She's got this program with all sorts of colors on it. And I'm looking at it, I don't think this is that tough, because if I knew how to push the right buttons on the computer, I could probably come up with something too. So I said, no, I want you to put some green in there. She says, but it's going to get lost in the background. I said, well, it's okay, you can try it anyway. Right? She says, okay. She pushes the thing, and I look at it, and sure enough, it's lost in the background. So I said, well, turn the background to orange. She says, if I turn it to orange, it's going to ruin the what do you call it, at the bottom. I said, well, try it anyway. And she did it. And sure enough, she took me around in circles all the way to the beginning, and she turned out 100% right. Everything I said was wrong. The most humbling experience outside of marriage, the most humbling experience, right? Everything I said was wrong. And I realized that there's more to it than just pushing the buttons. So a person has a creative ability does not like to be put into a box. You're taking a bunch of people now who are going to be going and designing the Mishkan. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu say? He says in Pasuk Yud, V'chol chacham leiv bachem, every wise-hearted, creative person, yavo v'yasu es kol asher tziva Hashem. You're going to do what Hashem commanded, right? As creative as you are, you're going to come and do it. Could you imagine a guy who can paint, tell Rembrandt to paint your wall, right? To become a house painter, right? You go nuts. You go crazy. How can you paint the wall? Next thing you know, you'd see your wall has all sorts of design. What do you call? As kol asher tziva Hashem. Just do what Hashem said. No creativity over here, other than the instruction. Just follow the instructions. Sometimes in life, that's the most difficult thing, to follow the instructions. Even more that, Halacha is very detailed. Halacha is very detailed. So, you have a lulav and an esrog and a hadass and a arova. I think with all that yellow and green, I think a little bit of red would look good. I'm going to take a rose also. Now, would that look better? You put a little red in there. Let's make it colorful. I forget what the blue flowers are called. I don't know what the blue ones are called. But put a little blue in there. Right? No. Just follow the instructions of the Torah. Follow the instructions to the nth degree. The Brisker Rav, tell you, this is a huge story. The Brisker Rav, if you know anything about the Briskers there's a stereotype of the Briskers being very nervous about halacha. They're very, very machmir and nervous. It's a stereotype. So, not true. I mean, stereotypes are often associated with experiences, but they are very halacha conscious. So, somebody at the Brisker of Rabbi Yitzchak Zev Soloveitchik, somebody once came to him and said, Rabbi, why are you so nervous about halacha? What are you so nervous about? So Brisker wasn't nervous, but the Brisker was very meticulous, and he felt if it's not right, he can't do it, and he had a very high standard of what's right. So the guy said, why are you so nervous about it? So the Brisker said to this guy, when you go to sleep at night, are you nervous about falling out of bed? He goes, no. He goes, do you ever wake up in the middle of the night to check how close you are to the edge? He goes, no. Did you sleep through the night comfortably? He goes, yeah. He says, great. I would like to take your bed and put it on the edge of a 12-story building. And yeah, I would like you to go sleep through the night. Would you be nervous? Would you do that? He goes, no, I don't think so. He goes, why not? Why not? You're okay in bed. What's the problem? He says, yeah, but I mean, in the unlikely event of, turning over too far, it could be a calamity. The Brisker says, that's how I feel about halacha. I'm not going to make mistakes. I'm not going to mess up. I'm not nervous. But in the unlikely event that I do make a mistake in halacha, it's got worse ramifications than you could possibly imagine. Because you think, okay, so you messed up a little bit, so you made the wrong bracha, so you turned the light switch on, a big deal. But if you understood what the spiritual world really is, so you understand that the ramifications are earth-shattering. I don't want to make those mistakes. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm not amazing. It's only a show. I don't want to make any mistakes. Because the mistakes, the same way that you don't make a mistake and fall out of bed off a 12-story building, in the unlikely event, that's why they always say on the airplanes, right? In the unlikely event of a water landing. Yeah, this, that, and the other. Yeah, why? If it's so unlikely, why are you talking about it? Why are you talking about it? They don't say it on buses. In the unlikely event of the bus going off a bridge, right? Say Shema real quick. They never. What do you go? They don't talk about it. If you go to the zoo, they'll say the unlikely event of a tiger getting loose. They never. And all of a sudden in the airplanes they're talking about it. In the unlikely event of a water landing. So I don't know how unlikely it is. Good. It's a big kasha. Sorry, Chiyun. Okay. Now, take a look at Pasuk Chaf. So Moshe Rabbeinu gives these commands, and then in Pasuk Chaf, there's all the equipment, everything that has to be made. And he finishes, and then it says in Pasuk Chaf, page 518, 10 lines to the top. Vayetzu kol hadas b'nei Yisrael milifnei Moshe. The entire congregation of Israel, they leave for Moshe Rabbeinu. They weren't even dismissed. They turn around and they leave. Because they're eager to get busy building the Mishkan. And there are commentaries that say that the reason that they didn't ask normally, if you're by one of the Gedolei Ador, you don't turn around and just leave. You wait until he's clearly dismissed you. And here it says, Vayetzu kol hadas b'nei Yisrael, the people left in front of Moshe Rabbeinu. So there are meforshim that say that the people were worried because Moshe Rabbeinu, they knew that he's a mitzvah chopper. They were worried that Moshe Rabbeinu himself is going to start running to go and donate the stuff. Because now they got to go home and donate. Can you imagine the Jewish people running away to go run home and donate money, right? Hey guys, we're going to need donations. Yeah, let's go, guys. Some people are just running away because they don't want to hear the next sentence, right? But over here, the Jewish people ran home, and it says they brought so much stuff that the workers had to eventually say, no more. We don't need any more. That's how much they donated. They were so eager they were to build the Mishkan. But one of the Bali Musar says, you know what the Torah is telling you over here? If you see a guy walking on the street, and the guy can barely walk a straight line, he's kind of bobbing from side to side. So what do you assume? Where does he come from? What's that? He probably came from a pub, right? Probably came from a pub. A guy who can't walk a straight line, right? If you see another guy, why are you laughing, Nathaniel? Right? A pub means basically every other house in England, right? I was in London. A guy picked me up at the airport. As we're walking, I'm looking at the stores. There's a Target, these various stores. Then I see something that says something like the White Swan or something. I said to the guy, "What is that? What do they sell over there?" So the guy says to me, if you don't know what it is, it's probably a pub, right? Anything in England, if you don't know what they're selling, what the items are, if you've never heard of the establishment before, just assume it's a pub unless you know otherwise. So if you see a guy wobbling from side to side, it's probably coming from a pub, right? He's probably coming from, okay. If you see a guy walking on the street, what do you call it, with a banner, his team is probably coming from a ball game. If you see a guy wearing a guy sweating profusely, right, he's probably coming from the gym. Often when you see people, you can see from their, what they call now, body language, right? Or you can tell where they're coming from. A person who's been in the presence of Moshe Rabbeinu, you should be able to tell by looking at him who is just in the presence of Moshe Rabbeinu. Vayetzu kol hadas b'nei Yisrael milifnei Moshe. If somebody just came out from in front of Reb Chaim Kanievsky, they generally, I know myself from personal experience, when you go to the Gedolim and you get a bracha, whatever, you walk out and it's just like you have to internalize the experience. You just kind of walk out like, ooh, ooh, ooh. That was intense, right? That was something. That was some experience. You can tell the difference between somebody you should be able to tell the difference between somebody who's come out of a beis medrash and somebody who's come out of a pub, right? Somebody who's come out of a shir or somebody who's come out of a beis medrash, it should be visible on the person where he's coming from. He's coming from doing something productive. He's coming from doing something. If you see a guy with his tie all the way down and he walks into the house, you see him on the subway. All right, this guy's obviously come from the commodities market. He's been on the floor at the one of these guys who looks like he's just like been blown out of a vacuum cleaner, right? He's obviously coming home from work. A guy coming from one of the Gedolim, a guy's been in the presence of Rav Elyashiv Zatzal, Rav Moshe Feinstein, and you left. It should be visible. A person who's learning Torah, people should see on our behavior. People should see in our behavior where we're coming from. It doesn't have to mean physically coming from. It means this is our involvement. Torah is our business. Everybody has business in life. Everybody has a job. You got to get a job. Oh, by the way, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have a job. How do you like that? He never graduated college. Could you imagine? Moshe Rabbeinu never graduated. Didn't have a degree. He didn't even have a job. He didn't have a job. Moshe Rabbeinu was, there he was. He was unemployed his entire life. Never had a job, right? But you should be able to tell people who were around Moshe Rabbeinu, you should be able to tell they're coming. A person leaves shul. Do you know the Gemara? You don't run from shul. You don't run from shul. You could run to shul. You could even run to shul on Shabbos if you're in a hurry. You don't leave shul. You don't run from shul. You take shul with you as you go out. You take shul with you. The people should see you're coming from shul. A person who's coming from an approach in life where life is serious and we're trying to achieve something, we're trying to do something with our lives, people should see that on us. People should see that on our behavior all the time. That's what the Yetzu, if you're Moshe Rabbeinu, this is a lesson to us about what people should see on us all the time. All right, see you tomorrow.